But, I'm trying to teach them, like, there's people that are she and him, and you can be, whatever you want. Like, you want to be a mom. The other day he came up to me and he was like, I'm going to have a vagina when I grow up, and I'm going to have a period in Spanish.
What's up, peoples? It's your bartenders, Mr. Z.
And your boy, Omega.
We bring you a very special episode as we invite the host of the Unconscious Bias Project podcast, Dr. Linet Mera, and our friend, Pocket Seth Boeckman, to take over the bar and share their hearts and minds on different unconscious bias and how to manage them in self and with others. As every episode, we want to thank all of you for listening. We truly appreciate you listening to our hearts and minds on varied and difficult topics.
Special thank you goes out to our Patreon subscribers for their support of the show. Every little bit helps us reach our goals to invite more high-profile guests and create bonus content.
Shouts out to our newest patron and recent guest, Dr. Linet Mera. And if you want to join in our conversation outside of this cast, feel free to hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at HaveADrinkCast, and make sure to use that hashtag HADcast.
Remember, this is always a conversation. If you don't agree, you want to voice your opinions, or even suggest a topic for an episode, feel free to join our Discord as well. The link will be in the description.
And please, if you like what we're doing here, share us with your friends, your family, your neighbors. Heck, write a screenplay about our nutty adventures in opening our hearts and minds as lovable yet thrilling bartenders. Your referrals mean a lot to us, as that's how we gain more listeners. So,
thank you again.
And get prepared to sit,
think,
and have a drink.
Welcome to Have a Drink Podcast. Enjoy the episode.
We said peace. What's up, peoples, and welcome back to another episode of the Have a Drink Podcast, where we invite you to sit, think, and have a drink. We're your bartenders, Mr. Z.
And I'm your boy, Omega.
Thank you. And joining us today, we have very special guests, the host of the Unconscious Bias Project, Dr. Linet Mera. She has a PhD. She's a Latina scientist from Colombia with 10 years of experience in diversity, equality, and inclusion program design. Loves oceans, connecting with people through food, dance, singing, and paint. And I'm pretty sure that should have ended with loves long walks on the beach.
That is accurate, actually. I actually prefer swimming.
Okay, yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. Right.
And also joining us at the bar today is an engineer and volunteer, Seth Boeckman, maker, artist, smooth voiceoverer.
Yeah, he's also an opera singer, robot whiz, project manager, Linet's accountant buddy, sound engineer extraordinaire, wearer of many hats and costumes.
And fantastic human being all around.
Hey,
give it up. Welcome.
Let's make some noise for our peoples. Welcome to the bar, y'all. Welcome.
Thank you. This is a really nice drink you made me over here.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
She obviously likes her drinks on the rocks.
I do. It's true.
Gotta crack them open.
Right. Thanks so much for having us. I really appreciate you, giving us the chance, the invite. We're such a new podcast. It's nice to have podcast buddies.
Absolutely.
Hey,
we understand that feeling because, after Seth and I talked a little bit about what you guys do, I was like, oh my goodness, I love hearing more of this coming into the world. Thank you so much.
That's really nice to hear someone say that about something that I'm so passionate about. That's really cool. Thank
Absolutely. You. Raw emotion and heart recognizes the same,
Yeah.
What is the Unconscious Bias Project?
Well, first of all, it's a huge mouthful, but let's just break it down. So Unconscious Bias Project, or UBP, we just call it UBP, is really all about that unconscious or implicit bias. Now, probably most of your listeners know what this is, but for the few folks out there that haven't really been on the news lately. So unconscious bias is essentially, so picture, you know what racism looks like, right? You know what sexism looks like. You can be like, okay, that is sexist, that's racist. But unconscious bias happens when you don't really realize you're being racist or sexist or some other ist, but you're still doing it anyways, either with your actions or with your words. And so what this can show up like is, for example, someone saying, oh, Omega is really awesome. Omega's a great leader. And then they turn around and they're like, oh, Linet, she's kind of bossy, so that sort of like dichotomy, it's sexist, right? Because I pointed out to you, but you might not necessarily say, aha, that's sexist. You could say, oh, well, maybe Lynette's just a little hard on people, right? Like there's that element of doubt. And so what we do at the Unconscious Bias Project is we bring awareness to unconscious bias, but most importantly, we give people like real, practical, manageable solutions, tools that you can apply on the everyday to reduce your own unconscious bias or overt bias. It works for both. And we do this for people in workplaces and classrooms. And what this looks like is we either design things from scratch. We've done everything from integrating art into how to reduce your own bias to like standard workshops where you're working on a problem with a buddy or in a group, to like entire climate surveys. Like we literally built a climate survey from scratch just to get at those things that you're like, well, okay, so people complain about discrimination, but like, where does it happen? To who does it happen? Why does it happen? And is it on company time? Is it around, is it like in social, situations or things like that? So we do a little bit of everything. But most importantly, what we are is we want to make our solutions be something that empowers people. So our motto is 0% guilt trip, 100% empowerment. And we totally mean that. Not to say that guilt isn't a part of, acknowledging that you did something wrong, that's part of processing those emotions, but we don't do that heavy lifting. That we leave that to other folks. What we do is we give you the tools, we give you the motivation, and we help you practice it. And then we help you make a commitment to making a difference. So I mentioned workplaces and classrooms. We don't just do this for the individual. We also tackle like systems issues, because we can't really talk about unconscious bias and bias without talking about the roots of where all that came from. So we do a little bit of everything. Yeah.
It's amazing. That's amazing. It's it's like I said, it's wonderful to see this kind of work being developed in the world and put into practice and put into motion, and hopefully teaches others to be able to spread that same message, those same teachings. Yeah, from what we've said on the show, like there's a lot that you can learn from just listening to someone fully in whatever it is they're thinking or feeling, and sometimes you'll learn your own unconscious bias within that.
Absolutely. That's actually one of the tools that we teach. It's like scientifically proven with people in a study that if you get to know somebody or you just start learning about another, ethnic group or age group or whatever, something that's like not your identity, like you're just already working on whatever unconscious biases you might have had towards that group. It's just that exposure. It's literally scientifically proven. And that's something that we do. It's all couched in like, okay, we want to make sure that what we're talking about isn't just like the latest BuzzFeed list, right? Because there's so many like 10 best ways to do this, 5 best ways, right? Like if it were that easy, trust me, like we would all be done with bias. I wouldn't have a job. Like that. This is not a thing. But I hear you. I think there's a lot more people now. And especially there's a lot more awareness now, unfortunately, due to George Floyd's killing, let's just call it killing. Unfortunately, due to his and many others' deaths, and thanks to the Black Lives Matter movement, people are starting to pay attention to this stuff, and they want to know, folks that think like, oh no, I'm really well-meaning, like I would never do something like that, catch themselves being like, hey, you're gonna spray paint that wall, right? Like that happened in San Francisco the other day, and like this kind of more subtle stuff, we still need tools for that. We still need to understand like our policies, our words, our actions, what we can actually do to make it better. And so fortunately, we're not the only ones in this space. And I like to think of the other people in this space as like our partners out there or, colleagues in the space, because the capitalist way of thinking about it is like there are competitors, and it's like, no. We need like every single flavor we can get to get people to listen, to change, to do something different.
Absolutely. Everybody can reach a different demographic, can reach a different audience, and it's important. I was actually curious. So you said you're a fairly new podcast that's out there. So you've have currently, I mean, probably at the time of airing this, you'll have had 7, maybe 8 shows out there, but I feel like this has been your heart, your soul project. So how long has this been going on, and what other modes of influence has been out there? You mentioned workshops where you'll go to classrooms and kind of workspaces and stuff like that and talk to people.
Whew. So it's interesting you bring up this question, because I just like earlier this afternoon, I talked to a bunch of undergrads and graduate students at UC Berkeley, and I told them about where Unconscious Bias Project came from. So it might go a little deep. I'm going to summarize so we can get there, and then we can always come back to it, of course. Anything is up for grabs. But
Perfect.
So, like, as you introduced, I'm from Colombia, Bogota. And my parents grew up in single family homes, and they didn't have a lot to their name. And so they were first generation college kids. And as soon as they had the opportunity to make more, they took it, right? They had me, they were planning to expand the family. My dad, for instance, is very much about giving back to his family. And he took it. And so we moved all around the world as I was growing up. My dad worked for an oil company. I know, so much to unpack there too. But anyway, so we moved around. The point is that we moved around. So I lived in Nigeria. I lived in France. Je parle français. I lived in Venezuela. I went back to Colombia, and then I landed in Texas, which is an entirely different country. And then I went to graduate school in California at UCSF. But this whole path, I had no idea that I was different from other people. I didn't really understand that there was a difference. I just knew that I just thought like, oh, people are people. Like I identified as like, oh, I know my Nigerian people. Like I know that accent. Like you put any sort of accents out there, I know the Nigerian accent. Like I know Nigerian rhymes from like being a kid and growing up there. And I was like, I think maybe 4 or 5 when we moved to France. So I picked up French. And so I really I felt like I got it. And then in Venezuela, it was just like Colombia, except, it was just a different place. It was warmer. And so I never realized I was different, or that I would perceive other people as different, or that other people were perceiving other people as different, which is really weird because in my family, there's a lot of racism. I am literally the palest person in my entire family, both my mom's side and my dad's side, except for my grandpa on my mom's side. He is super white. But like my cousins from my dad's side, they have the kinky hair, they have much darker skin. Like my sibling was called a wetback and kicked out of their then girlfriend's house because their skin is browner than mine. I got like, my neighbors almost called the cops on me because I was sitting in my car in my neighborhood in Texas. So anyways, I got too deep in there. But so when I was in Texas, I realized as I was walking down the street, I saw this other like Black student like come down the street, not on campus. And I clutched my purse and I was like, what the hell? Why would I do that? That doesn't make sense to me. I like literally realized what I was doing. And I was like, this is wrong. Like I didn't realize it. And that sort of like became my like reckoning and understanding of how race plays into things. Because before that, all I'd ever perceived and gotten was serious sexism, right? Because like Latin America, hello. machismo. And, and people asking me if my dad was a drug dealer because I'm from Colombia. Like that was literally like the things, or do I eat spicy food, or, am I like ready and able to date or whatever? Like that was my experience of the US. And so once I started thinking about these things and I really got into how can I include people like me? How can I include others that are othered? And I just started on this journey. I started volunteering with like international associations to try to expand cultures. I co-founded a language learning institute in college because I wanted people to like do that, like getting actually to know each other, right? Like get to know what's the slang, right? Because that's where like the culture is, right? The slang, the music, the food. It's not in the how do you conjugate the past perfect or whatever. Like nobody cares about that. And then in graduate school, I got there and I was like, wow, I am one of like 3 people of color, and I am so white passing that like it's not even funny. So there was this tiny minority graduate student organization, and we just sort of like helped each other out. And then we realized like, this is so hard to just be us in this space and not have microaggressions thrown at us left and right. Like it didn't even matter what color of skin you had. Like there was just so much happening all the time. And in the setting where you're supposed to do science and, just work hard and it's all intellectual, right? Like nobody cares about the color of your skin. Bullshit. We needed some help. So we designed our first ever diversity workshop for the entire graduate division and like ran it for several years. And now it's become like an annual thing. And so that sort of like kicked off my doing like intentional diversity, equity, inclusion by name stuff. I co-ran Women in Life Sciences. I like volunteered for the Chancellor's Advisory Committee of this and that and all these other things. And at the same time, I was having the worst time ever in lab, not because of the science. I love the science, but because of the work environment. I was in such toxic cultures. Like the first lab I was in, when I left it, people were like, oh, didn't you know? Like no women that go through that lab ever become faculty. None of them. And I looked and they were right. Like I went through at least 20 years and nobody went on to be faculty. I switched labs. I went to another lab. I was younger professor. And I was like, okay, this is good. He's invested, he's there. And it was like worse. Like, I don't know how, but it was worse. And I fortunately was able to graduate still. I was able to do science and graduated, but it left me being like, well, how can people say that they're going to do the best science possible and recruit the best people possible, right? This is literally in UCSF's mission, like the best whatever, and allow this. And I started recognizing like the role of power dynamics, right? Like the role of policies, like all these different things. And after graduate school, I had to do some soul searching because I was sure I was going to be a professor. Like I've had like a lot of time to grieve about this because it was such a big dream of mine. And so I did some soul searching, career, trying out things. And I went to a talk by one of my mentors, who's amazing, Carol Gross. She's like an amazing professor. She's known worldwide, like literally some dude in Japan that I interned with was like, you have to go to UCSF and check out Carol Gross because she is the best in the field. And I was like, I never heard of UCSF. Like my parents like graduated college in Columbia. I knew nothing about schools. I just knew about Harvard and Berkeley. Like that's it. And he's like, go to graduate school. I was like, I can go to graduate school. I mean, like it was a whole thing. Anyways, I went to her talk and it was about women in science because she's known as like the person that pushes the envelope for women in science. And it was bad, right? Like things have gotten a lot better than the 50s, but like, pay gaps are real. Like even the freaking size of the offices are different and lab spaces are different. And I was like, this is terrible, Carol. Like we got to make some really big sweeping changes if we're going to ever fix this. How do we get started? I was like, I'm ready. Like I'm going to be part of your team. Let's do this. And she was like, actually, I don't think I have enough clout. this is a tenured professor. Like she's been in this field for like, I don't know, 30 years or something. Super, like everybody loves her. Like not a single person has said a single bad thing about Carol Gross. And she's saying this. And I'm like, am I going to have to be 60 before I can see the changes that I needed? Like, will I ever get there? So like literally days later, I went to a conference and it was all about students at UC Berkeley trying to create solutions for diversity, equity, inclusion problems. And Kat Adams, our UBP co-founder, was giving a talk. She just wanted to get started with Unconscious Bias Project. She's like, I want to try to create solutions. I want to try to bring awareness to this problem and give people the tools to talk to their professors, talk to their, whatever bosses about this problem. And I was like, sign me up. And it was amazing. And at first we were just doing like a total punk rock thing. Like, I don't know, like we do art or like sidewalk things where we watch movies and we like talk about it. And we did all sorts of really fun things and we got people's attention. But, slowly but surely, like people wanted more. They wanted like, okay, so now what do I do? Right. I have all this awareness, but now what do I do about it? And so we designed workshops. We were like, okay, we're going to design a workshop. And actually Kat designed the very first one. And she went and she dug into the research, like we always do. She dug into the research, she put it together, and she's like, and I want to make this friendly. I want to make this fun. I want to make this engaging. And of course, people wanted to throw money at us, right? Like take my money. And we didn't know what to do with that. So we started the nonprofit. And the nonprofit started about 3 years ago. And a year in, the 6 of us, but 5 people voted for me to run it. And I was like, sure, I have no idea what I'm doing. But I started running it. And since then, it's just, I don't know, that's it. Now I'm running it.
That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that.
Yeah, I didn't realize UBP was that young.
Yeah, the nonprofit is young. The student org is like 5 years old. And an awesome thing, Safi, right, Seth?
Mm-hmm.
Is that Safi, who is a student at Berkeley, I convinced her, but I knew she was already awesome. But she's like, yeah, I'll take over the student org. So the student org is still alive. It's called Unconscious Bias Project at Cal. But we're the Unconscious Bias Project nonprofit. We're like a fiscally sponsored project and separate things. But yeah, it's still alive. It's still going. Yeah.
That's absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all that. I did have a question that's been kind of looming in the back of my head. And my question is, do you think from you being so well traveled as a young person, that opened your eyes and your mind as well as your heart to being more open to other people and experiences? As in like not being having so many biases towards others, because you kind of like, I lived in a whole nother country and got to know these types of people. Then you went to another country, lived with these types. So you're extremely more well-traveled than most of even the military kids who are on the base, an American base or a military base in another country. So they're essentially around their own people. Whereas you were probably in the cities and towns of the actual people that are from there. So do you think that had something to do with your eyes kind of already being partially open? You already being woke?
Well, I would love to take that credit, but no. So you can't travel yourself out of bias. You can't do that. I mean, it would be like a great pill, right? Just go travel the world, live in a few different countries. Ta-da! A little more on my backstory is I mentioned that I lived in Venezuela, and then I went back to Colombia, and then I went back to Venezuela. When I was in Venezuela, the first time, I think I was in like 4th grade. And I moved back to Colombia in 5th grade, but I had no friends. And so my parents wanted me to continue the like bilingual education. Like they worked really hard to teach me English, even though like it wasn't their first language. And I went to a Catholic school. So many stories about that. But I arrived there like pink backpack, pink rimmed glasses, like, yay, school. And let me tell you, it was like the biggest culture shock in my life. These girls were talking about shaving, having sex. Like I was just like, what? My Mickey Mouse Club just turned into like a strip club. They're rolling up their skirts. Guys were like, like groping girls. And I was just like, I couldn't understand what was happening. And so, of course, I really liked school. I was an outsider. I spoke English well. Ta-da, I got picked on. And I was super picked on. I got bullied so much. Like, I have fractures in both my wrists thanks to that. Like, it was bad. And it only lasted like a year. I was there 5th grade. I started 6th grade. And then this was when my dad had tried to leave the oil industry, and he tried to start a potato chip business and a CD business. Anyways, it failed. So we went back to Venezuela to the oil industry. And I got there, fully ready to be back in the same old shit of being bullied. And I was the most popular person there. Like, I got to hang out with the 12th graders. I was like, wow, I am so cool. And it like immediately, I was like 11 or 12 or something. It totally like messed with me because I don't understand, right? Like, I'm the same person. I wear the same things. I wear the same glasses. I hit puberty, but I was like, I'm the same person that left. Yeah, puberty. and I was instantly popular. And I caught myself, I realized when like the disconnect happened, when I bullied another girl, I made fun of her, and I instantly felt that it was wrong, but it took me a while to realize that it was just it's arbitrary, right? And that literally, that experience, I think, is the core of why I try to learn about people and I'm open. And yeah, I do think like having that international experience helps, but I know people that lived all over the world and they're absolutely sexist or totally racist or just, absolutely ageist or ableist. And, so do you have to be me to overcome your biases? No, but I had biases, right? Like, I'm telling you, I clutched my purse, right? I had biases. I didn't know like you could have ableist language. I didn't realize I was being sexist myself, thinking about how my mom decided to sacrifice her career so that, she could stay home with us while they were moving around the world. I didn't realize that. It took me, like, it takes like the recognition and it takes the learning and it takes the understanding, you don't have to know like all of the history of the world to be motivated, but it helps if you know like, okay, where is this really coming from? Because race is just a construct. It's not real. I mean, yes, we have different skin colors, and because of that, we have different experiences. But like the definition of white, like, I forget where I heard this, but the definition of white comes from the negation of other, right? So it's just a construct. They're like, okay, what are all the things that we consider bad characteristics? And we're going to put that on everybody else. And then we're white, right? Like, that's how you justify slavery. That's how you justify, rape and pillaging and, decimating civilizations. I know I took it really deep, but
but no. It's an interesting direction, because also you think about it this way too, because it's up to the willingness of the individual to also acknowledge that bias, and then to also take it another step further and change it, or have some course of action towards it. If you don't have that willingness, then you're automatically shut down, especially if you're having conversations with people and you guys are not seeing eye to eye on a particular topic. it's like talking to a brick wall. I mean, you'll keep throwing things and hope they stick. And sometimes you'll like bust all the way through. You're like, wait, I actually got through the other side. I was just throwing things and hope and prayed something either stuck on the wall or lightning struck. And apparently I got lightning, which is cool. You know,
You're Thor now. I like it. Yeah, both of y'all could be our facilitators. Are you auditioning? Is this like a test? Because like that's literally one of the things that we say. We're like, what are the prerequisites for reducing your own bias? And the first one is awareness, and the second one is a willingness, right? And then you got to practice. You got to do all the different things to try to make it work.
Absolutely.
It's beautiful.
I'm kind of curious, Seth. Like, what was your journey into being to joining this project?
I think for me, it was like kind of getting. So I think I hit 30 and got into kind of into an emotional self-awareness, realizing that I don't have any. Uh, and so started getting into therapy and like really started getting into nonviolent communication. Uh, and really taking a look at what is masculinity and how can I reframe masculinity, what, because I don't resonate with these hyper masculine or like what is like machismo. I just don't resonate with it. So like I'm just like I want something different. I want to teach people like how to have awareness of themselves and hopefully be able to help them figure out where helping them figure out like how can they shift things as well as how can we support them. And so I'm still friends with Kat. I moved here to the Bay Area about 7 years ago. About a year later, my friend Kat moved here and she was like, hey, I'm starting up this thing and I see you have a maker space and we want to make some art. We want to do these like public interactives. And, for me, I come from a theater background and I'm like, fuck yeah. Like, I totally want to do this. Like, this is the thing that I want to keep working for, working towards, and it's interesting. I think in my younger years, my backstory is dad's side of the family. I'm fourth generation American. Mom's side of the family. Mom emigrated from Costa Rica when she was 18, and so it's interesting. Me about like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I started recognizing like I was taught to really ignore my Tico side, and um and I understand why my mom did it, especially growing up in a white dominant world and being a military brat. Like mom's like, no, you're white, we're not going to talk about the Costa Rican roots and anything like that. So for me it's just like wanting to learn more about that and want to understand more about seeing, well, starting with that studying, like I also realized that there is biases and prejudice in the Latino community, the Latinx community, and just seeing like this is like the stuff that they're saying and the stuff that I hear from like the white side of the family, it's all the same. It's just like it's just nasty like hate speech and wording, and it just, yeah, I just had a problem with it. And it's just like this is just not a white issue. This is like biases and uh exist in all cultures and races.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why I wanted to get involved with this, because uh I really love and care for my friend, and also like I really like the program that Lynette and Ken have developed, and Alexis and like everyone else at UBP who's helping to continue this and uh, have this group grow.
That's wonderful. Yeah, it's uh, from everything that we've heard. This is an amazing awareness to bring to people. You know, we talk on here frequently about the different things that we may have gone through. We've talked about colorism within our communities. We've talked about, you know, we've broken down the unconscious biases around those. Um, but actually, I did want to, I did have a question about, within all the workshops and things that you guys do, what are some of the tools? I know you kind of like listed a few as you were going, but like what are kind of some tools that you could use um to unravel and then readjust that unconscious bias?
Yeah. Well, first off, I do have to say, Seth, I'm so glad you got asked this question. I was going to ask the question because that's really powerful. I didn't know all of that backstory, so that's really cool. And similarly, yeah, my extended family is extremely racist and does a lot of colorism. So how do you even begin? It depends, right? It depends who you are. So if you're somebody that's like already interested, looking to explore, right? Start by learning, like, what is it that's out there? Start by understanding how do you like deconstruct some of the false narratives that get told. You can so we have the 5 tools you can apply. You can come to a workshop. You can bring us to your workplace or school.
For a workshop, especially with how it is right now, do you have a virtual workshop that people can attend?
Oh yeah, yes.
And what's the
Yes,
youngest that you guys work with?
that's a really good question, Omega, because when we were in person, we did quite a bit of outreach during Cal Day on Berkeley, where we read books about bias and about different people to little kids. But things that we've developed as workshops, we primarily work with like undergraduates and older. So we've been on and off talking with. I have a few friends who are in both the social sciences and people that advise us that are in sociology and psychology. So we do want to eventually, build some tools for that space, but we're not there yet. But there are some awesome folks that are doing that right now. But yeah, so older folks generally, although we do have some like that reading list, we do have that on our website somewhere if we get our website refixed. And there's lots of great reading lists now. Like, even for example, since you have a kid, you probably know the Kendi's Anti-Racism Baby or Anti-Racist Baby.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a great book. Like it was totally awesome because I could just read it with my kid. And then they started asking questions like, why is this ladder broken? And so I got to ask, I didn't even notice the broken ladder appeared in like the later page. Did you notice that? Do you have the book?
No.
Okay, get the book.
No, I didn't.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's like a they go through like the different things of like what an anti-racist baby does. And one of them is like, anti-racist baby spots when or calls out when there's something wrong, like right, there's something discriminatory. And it shows, probably a Black woman, like a darker skinned woman trying to climb up a ladder with like, her stuff, and it's broken. You can see it's broken. And then the other side, there's a lighter skin, like probably white woman climbing up a ladder that's perfectly fine and she can reach her goals. And then in the last page, they sort of bring all the different elements that were throughout the book. And I think it implies, that the white woman helped fix that ladder for the Black woman. And now the Black woman can get to the top of the book or whatever it was that she was trying to climb. So just like starting to have those conversations with people is like an excellent way to start. One of the really easy tools to apply is to learn other people's stories. So get to know somebody that's not like you. And that doesn't mean like, Z, do you listen to rap music? Are you into hip hop? Do you eat jumbo? Like that is not how you begin this conversation. Not like, Seth, you're like Costa Rican. Do you eat spicy food? Do you know how to dance? Like that's just not how we get started. You can get started by just being curious. Like, hey, I want to hear, how you grow up. Like, what kind of music do you listen to? Like what is comfort food for you? And we could be surprised. Maybe Seth's comfort food has nothing to do with Costa Rica. Maybe it's like, I don't know, the Chinese noodles down the street, right? So then you get to know somebody for who they are. And then you have that image of like, okay, right? Like this is what a Latinx person can be like, right?
Right.
And yeah, just getting to know people. And if you're too scared to like start a conversation, like podcasts like this one are an excellent place to start. Blogs, Twitter, just follow people, like listen to what they have to say, and believe it, right? Like that's the other part. Like don't just be like,
Right.
yeah, right. Like, well, they said that they're not a criminal, but I know from the news, like just, yeah, believe the person. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say right, because it's interesting because while going through, I'm making a show currently outside of this, but we talked about representation within the show, and one of the things that we talked about solving that feeling of like, oh, you're just checking boxes of, okay, I got representation, I have of a person of color, I have a person in the LGBTQ community, I have a person who's disabled, or what have you here or there. Instead of doing that, of like just populating the show with enough people within all of these demographics to where it's like actual life, and then you have people who aren't carrying the sole weight of representation on their shoulders, of like, I have to be the most pristine because I'm the only person here, or I'm the only person in the show doing something, so if I do it, if I'm a bad person, or if I'm a criminal, then they're gonna be like, oh, why is it gotta be the black guy that's the criminal, or why is it gotta be the white guy that's the crazy one, or why is it like all these different narratives that are taught. But yeah, so you have them actually being real people in shows that depict what their individual experience is like, and you can believe them. Like, believe that that's their experience. It's like, that's not the representation, I don't experience that, so that's not true. It's like, there are a lot more of us out here, right? I mean, at least 1 or 2 billion. We should be good. But yeah, I love that idea. And yeah, thank you, Seth, for sharing your background. Thank you, Linet, for sharing, like, the origins of this, because I always love hearing where that comes from. Go ahead, O.
Yeah, I actually want to say thank you as well. And it's just crazy to finally hear from that perspective, because that is a conversation that usually had amongst your own group of people, so it's like, to hear about the Latinx, we're actually talking about that and mixed company, is really good, because it's not something that we hear too often. Like, as a black male, all I ever hear about is dark versus light skin. And that's our biases, and we hear that all the time. I've been raised through that. I mean, I can sit here and tell you, and it's weird, I've talked about this once on the show before, growing up as a kid, I made a point to wear long sleeve everything and stay out of the sun, because I wanted to be light skinned like my brother, who I looked up to. And it's stupid and crazy, but yet that was me, because I wanted to be like him, because he was the epitome of cool. He was the one, And then all of a sudden, but one of my favorite actors and movie stars was Wesley Snipes, and he was dark as night, So it was quite the opposite, And I'm used to those conversations, but to hear that, and like, being married to a Mexican woman, I'm seeing this more and more. I'm hearing this, like, I hear little things in here and there, and I'm like, oh, well, that's that's racist amongst your own people, or that's very sexist, or that's very classist, and I'm just thinking about that, and I'm like, but I can't say anything about that because it's not my conversation, because that's the easy one to look at me and be like, well, who are you? What are you saying? You can't talk like this. But yet, in the same vein, I hear some of those same people like, oh, what up, nigga? And all this stuff like that. I'm like, what the fuck? Did you not remember that I'm black? But you gonna say nigga to each other like I'm not here? I'm like, oh, oh my Lanta, what do I say and what do I do? Somebody look at this.
Somebody give me another shot.
You know what? I got this BS drink right here.
It's going to be a long night.
It really, it is. And it's just those interesting moments where it's like, you kind of want to, it's almost like you're playing double dutch. You're like, do I jump in? Do I not? Do I jump in? Do I not? Because I want to say something, but I don't, because I'm like, is this my conversation to have? So what are some advice that you could give to those that want to say something about it, but it's like, this is not either my group of people, or I am in a safe space, I feel, but having this hard conversation will make this no longer an acceptable or safe space?
There's so much to unpack there. That's a really excellent question. And it is actually one of the things that a lot of people come to us for. Okay, so where do I begin? I began by saying that drink is really good. I think it was stronger than you meant to make it, because I'm already buzzed. I'm not even halfway through.
I thank you.
Yeah,
we got really heavy pours.
Yeah, it's good stuff though. I can't even feel it. I listened to that podcast that you're talking about, and it like I had to stop, and like it was bringing tears to my eyes. I mentioned in the beginning, I'm white passing, and in my experience, I actually thought I was darker because I lived in all these hot climates, and so I was perpetually tan. But then once I moved to San Francisco, I was like, oh no, I'm like really, really white. I'm really pale. And so I don't know that experience, right? Like you're sharing that with me. I am taking that, and I am like fully believing you, and fully like, like one of the other tools that we teach is perspective taking. And that doesn't mean like, okay, I'm going to pretend to be O. No, but it means that I can be like, what would O feel like if, they had this happen, or, their cousin said this, or somebody made this joke about them, or said something about like the light people or whatever. And I can say they can feel it. Sorry. So forward to your question about how do you intervene? I think one of the first things that you said, which is that if it's a safe space moment. So especially if you are somebody that receives a lot of microaggressions, it is very important to know how to check in with yourself, which most people of color and people that are like non-majority have like built these skills over time, because otherwise we just like blow up every 10 minutes. You got to have that self-awareness. Like, is this a safe space for me? How am I feeling? Do I have my allies with me? Will somebody else back me up in this conversation, or am I all on my own? You got to assess first, and you got to check in with yourself even as you're having the conversation. Determining whether it's your place to step in and whether that will change the dynamic is really hard, right? I've just done it with experience. It doesn't help. And I don't always get it right? Sometimes I screw up and I get mad. Sometimes, the other two people in the conversation are like, well, they didn't mean that way. Like, are you calling me racist? Like, then it's like, okay, that wasn't what I had in mind. So we actually do this in workshops. We talk about what are the different ways you can respond if you're receiving it. And all of the different emotions and tactics are valid. And we recommend not going with that was really sexist or that was really racist. Start with why'd you say that? Or I'm sorry, I didn't get the joke. Can you explain it to me? I'm sorry, I didn't get it again. Like, where is it coming from? Or you counter it with another joke, right? Or with a replacement. That's one of the tools that we use. So in the example I gave earlier today, Linet's so bossy, Seth can pipe in and be like, actually, I think Lynette's a leader. Or you could say like, why don't you call the guys bossy? Like, why don't you call O bossy? Right? Like he's over here giving all these commands. Like, why don't you call him bossy? Or, everything's online now, right? So there's a lot of like microaggressions happening in texts or in memes and things. And one of these happened in my chat group with some family. And it was like, I don't know, it was like a fake article where a guy finally dies after a woman nags him for like 30 years or something like that. And I was like, geez, like seriously, like you're like, this is the kind of joke you want to put on here. They have like a 13-year-old, like my dad's cousins have like a 13-year-old that they want to protect at all costs. And I'm like, and you're going to teach her this? If this is what you want her to see? And so I went and I found like a newspaper, like meme editor, and I like flipped it. I flipped the genders and I flipped it. And I was like, oh, funny. I saw a similar article in this other newspaper. You can just like remake the joke like that. And then you make them think, right? You have to make them reflect on what they're doing and what they're saying. That's usually the easiest way to get somebody to start thinking about things. As I mentioned before, you got to keep track as you're going through. If they're starting to get defensive and you're not starting to feel safe, be like, you know what? I just didn't like what you said. And I can tell that, you're unhappy too. So let's just come back to this some other time. Or, you can just walk away, right? Like you don't have to do the burden, of the work. And that's the other thing is like, it often falls on like that one Black person, that one Black woman, that one Latinx person, that one person that uses a wheelchair that has to speak up for themselves. And it sucks, right? You're getting hit by microaggressions all fucking day. Why do you have to do this work for this person now, right? And because you have that, like you said, it might not be a safe space anymore. You could get triggered, right? Like we've all had those traumas from the past. So we recommend what we call bias buddies. It's not just allies, just people that are like, yes, I believe in you. These are folks that we think of it more as an active thing, not as like, let's train you to be an ally, go off into the world and, save, I don't know, Z, right? Like we don't need saving, right? We just need somebody that we can count on in those situations. So if you have like a recurring situation, it's a family member or it's a coworker or, just that person that usually does something or something that usually happens to you. Like women often get interrupted, right? I could recruit my bias buddy, Seth, and be like, hey, Seth, when I'm in these meetings, Julie often talks over me and I know she probably doesn't mean it, but like every single time I start talking, she starts talking. I start talking, she says, so like, can you help me do something about this? And then Seth can say,
hey, actually, it looks like Lynette has something to say. Let's take a moment and listen to her for a second.
Brilliant. I put you on the spot and you nailed it. But yeah, that's a great example. You'd be like, oh, Lynette wasn't done speaking, and having, we recommend that bias buddies are of some other category than you. So, if you like, if you think it's like because of gender, I would choose a guy, right? If you think it's because of race, like choose your white buddy. If you think it's because of ableism, like choose your able-bodied buddy. And it's meant to be a conversation, right? Like it's not just like, I train you as an ally, go forth and conquer. You're supposed to check back in, right? Like maybe Seth didn't, maybe Seth knows to watch out for interruptions, but say, somebody else said something about me being from Colombia and, for example, the drug joke. Say we're all having drinks, we're trying to socialize, and like, buddy doesn't get it, comes in, it's like, oh, Colombia, like, have you watched Narcos? Like, have you ever tried cocaine? And then Seth is like, should I handle this? Do I not handle this? And maybe I handle it, maybe I don't. But what my bias buddy can do afterwards be like, hey, I noticed that was really awkward. I didn't want to step in because I wasn't sure it was my place. Are you okay? Like, can I help you in some way? And what can I do next time? And that gives me, right, that gives me the power, the ownership of being like, you know what, I was just gonna let it slide because I don't know this guy, like I don't even care, like whatever, he's not worth my time, I'm just having fun having drinks with Z and O, right? Or I can say like, like just let me feel those, it's okay, right? It's meant to be a conversation. So
I
did
like
I
that.
answer it?
No, definitely. And I also want to say, Seth, are you available for relationships? Because my wife interrupts me like nobody's business, and it drives me up and down and through the walls. So if you happen to get a phone call from me, just be like, Seth, interception, go. Just be like, hey, I think Anthony had something to say.
Totally.
Great, I appreciate it.
Everybody needs a pocket, Seth.
Pocket Seth. We should definitely.
I love that.
We could totally make a commercial like that. You just pull you out of the pocket, be like, excuse me, I don't feel. And it'd be a great way to even train scenarios too. It'd be fun, interactive.
Who's gonna be your pocket, Seth? No, actually, it's very interesting we're talking about this, is because we just got back from Mexico like a week ago. And I'm sitting there being the fly on the wall, even though there's only 4 people in the room. And I'm watching and listening to my in-laws interact. So I'm watching them, and I'm listening to how they talk over each other, or how they speak in the middle of somebody speaking, even with me. And it's like I said, it drives me up the wall. But I looked at my wife and I was like, yo, you are your parents through and through. Like, and she's like, what do you I'm like, babe, they talk over each other. They talk over me. They don't listen to me. Sometimes they do. They even like, I know what I'm talking about because I've been in my field for years. But they act like I don't know shit. And I was like, what is this? I was like, you are your parents. I seen it firsthand. And the talking over me shit is really old, really fast. Because as soon as it started, I was like, mute. I'm done talking. But I was like, I love you, but I needed my pocket Seth. I left him back in the States. I forgot to bring him with me. He was supposed to save me.
I'm also available through WhatsApp.
I think you
I
need to
wish I
make a
knew that.
commercial right now. Let's do this commercial right now.
I'm telling you,
Pocket Seth.
Yes. Yes.
I love it.
hit
I
us with
love
that
it.
smooth voice. That smooth voiceover. Come on, you smooth voiceover.
Yeah. Let's do the situation.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. Talking over. Oh no, what am I going to do?
Let me reach in for my pocket Seth. Here, pocket Seth, save me.
Why do you say that? How come you don't know? Why? I think Omega has something to say.
Why,
Yeah.
thank you, pocket Seth. Here, go back in there. I put some snacks for you. Thanks. There's
Oh,
enough.
Pocket Seth. Pocket Seth. Hey, what time is it?
B.O.B. time.
Time is it?
B.O.B. time.
Time is it?
Black-owned business.
Hey, it's Black-owned business time.
Hey.
So we usually like to take a moment in this segment to highlight a Black-owned beverage, a Black-owned brewery, or a Black-owned business of some sort. And today we are going to hit you with 2 categories. First up, Stygian. They are a majority Black-owned spirits company. They're made up of a radical group of serial entrepreneurs that banded together to disrupt the spirits industry. It's hard to break into different industries, especially as influencers start getting in on the scene. It gets hard to be part of that competition, but they decide to come together and create something wonderful. They help you brand your own spirit and fuel revenue for their followers and distribution partners as well. I found them on this little site that has been so helpful for navigating the true black market. It is called BayAreaBlackMarket.com. and I found them on there. They're amazing. I went over to their website at stygiancorp.com. That's STYGIAN corp.com. Yeah, they're located in Oakland, California. Actually, it's a quaint little place that we'll probably be taking a trip to at some point. We have been piling a list of breweries and distilleries and all sorts of beverage businesses, Nirvana Soul, coffee shop, that we plan on visiting and possibly, hosting a live show in one of these places. That'd be super fun. But yeah, I highly implore you all to take a look at them, especially if you're into spirits, if you're into supporting, these these businesses. I would definitely take a look there. If you want to find more Black owned businesses, especially out here in the Bay Area. We are in California, so that is kind of a highlight to be able to find all these gems located just down the street. You can check them out again at Bay Area blackmarket.com.
All right. And now, since we just talked about our beverages, now we're going to talk about a whole nother business segment here. And we're going to talk about my really good friend, Michael Janae. So she is a brand that merges luxury and streetwear with inspirations from past eras. Michael Janae strives to be a standout brand by changing the narrative of being a luxury Black-owned business. First launching with women's looks, Michael will also have a men's line and eventually venture into other avenues of fashion. Who's our customer? A confident, bold, unique individual who is a trendsetter that is ready to take risks and handle the attention Michael Janae looks will bring. So to find out more about the brand and the creative director, please visit www.michaeljanae.com. You can find her on IG at MIKEALJINAE and contact her, or you can email her at info@michaeljanae.com. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this one to you too, this one's near and dear to my heart, is Michael is like, she's like my little sister. She's one of my really good friends and dancer. I mean, she is a simply beautiful person. And I don't just mean physically, but I mean mentally, emotionally, and her talent is out of this world. So please go out there and support. And I mean, it's free to support somebody just by spreading the word, by giving a click and a link and check out their sites. That's all free. And it's always an added bonus to go out there and support financially to see them strive and reach their goals. So please take a moment out of your day and check out Michael Janae.
Bring it back.
Come
Whoa.
on back.
Whoa. Where did we go? Oh, a bunch of goofballs. I love it. So before we got interrupted by the commercial segment, we were diving into tools that you can use to unpack and resolve unconscious biases, as well as you heard the founding steps to the pocket Seth. So uh but something that like I heard repeated over and over again was white passing. So if you could give a little, I guess, definition for those that might not understand what white passing means.
What is white passing? Like, so dad's side of the family, came from Germany. My mom is clearly brown skinned, and um, somehow, as I was born, like I definitely have lighter skin. Um, and so moving around in the world, there's a lot of people that interpret me and how I look as a white person. And it's really interesting, like navigate walking through that, because like I grew up with a different culture, and it's yeah, it's for me, it's kind of fascinating because like uh, people feel like they have the liberty to say whatever they want in front of me, also being like white passing and a passing cis male. it's one of those things where like they think it's okay to make a homophobic remark. They think it's okay that they know that my mom is brown and like make a joke about like, oh well, you know, they know my family is from Costa Rica, but like they'll make a joke where it's just like, oh, but you're Mexican, like, you know, they're trying to be funny, and at the same time it's just like, what's wrong with Mexicans? There's nothing wrong with them. Like, what's funny about that joke? I don't. Yeah. So it's really interesting. My experience with being white passing. It's interesting because like living here in Oakland, I started a shops. Well, I moved into a shop space up in the Laurel. A small business called Movement Inc. And they had a little space I could set up my laser, my sticker maker, and like mainly you people can rent a space, but the majority of the people who are renting wall space to sell their merchandise or their clothing are either black and brown. So it was really interesting going in that space for me because like a lot of the people who are Latinx like would look at me and just like, oh, well, clearly you're mixed, you know, and like they'll start speaking to me in Spanish, and like they'll just treat me like, you know, I'm an equal with them. So it's I mean, it was fantastic. It was really great being in that space.
That's amazing. Um, well, thank you for sharing your experience. I mean, from what I got from what you said was that it's even with being a person of color or of some ethnic background, excuse me, um, that you still present as white. You know, you can still pass or present as a white, and then you said cis male.
That's really cool that you found yourself in a space that sort of took you in for, I don't know, for who you are as opposed to what somebody else would project on you. Um, I'm gonna confession time with Pocket Seth.
These are her confessions.
Confession. That should have sparkles. I actually didn't consider myself white passing or understand that I was fully white passing until I think this last year, when I worked side by side with one of my really good friends, Selena, who has been absolutely instrumental to this project, much like Seth has been. And she was just telling me, like, you know, during the pandemic, you know, the other day, this woman was like, get out of my space in like a aisle in the grocery store. And I was like, gosh, that's actually never happened to me. Like that literally hasn't happened to me. Like I made the joke before we started recording the podcast, but if I don't wear the big earrings, if you don't see like my my indigenous Colombian necklaces, like you're just gonna think I'm some, you know, white girl with a slightly weird way of saying S's, right? Like that's it. Like that's the only thing that people identify, because I cannot tell you how many times people have asked that, but where are you from? Once they hear like my last name, or once they notice something, like I always wear my Colombian bracelet because it's always here, right? Like this is me. And I've never considered myself white because that is not my experience. So white passing really, it's in the eyes of the beholder. Like other people can say stuff about it. I don't know if y'all saw the controversy recently from J-Lo about okay, I mean maybe we shouldn't go there because that's like a whole nother can of worms.
Go ahead, you can mention it. You already brought it up. Might as well.
But
Yeah, I'm curious.
Sure.
Go for
Okay,
it.
so apparently J-Lo recorded the song, and in the song that she just released, she called herself something like Puerto Riqueña, that negrita from the Bronx. And negrita is both the same word of endearment for a Black person. It's the same word that you would use to say a Black person as you would say the N-word. So they are intertwined, unbreakable in the Spanish language. more people are starting to adapt the like Afro-Latino, Afro-Colombian part. But it blew up on Twitter. I know I'm not on Twitter, but I saw it on a different article on Facebook. I know, terrible. But I keep on clicking the People articles, and I know I shouldn't, but it was a People article. But people are blowing up about it on Twitter. No, actually, this was a Madame, I forget. Anyways, so J.Lo called herself Black in this song, and it blew up because people are like, "You are not Black. Like you do not share the same Black experience." I'm paraphrasing Black people saying this, like this is not me saying this, but like, you do not share the Black experience. Like you've been in movies where you essentially like pass as like ambiguous ethnicity. Like you were, a slightly brown, like Puerto Rican at most. And I was so disappointed. I mean, musically, I don't love all her music, I'll be honest. But as a teenager, when people were making fun, because I have a big butt, people were making fun of me, like guys were like, groping me, messing with me. And I felt ashamed of my body. Here's J.Lo, like all over the place, being Latina, showing her booty. She's like, whatever. People respected her and like liked her music. And I was like, okay, like you don't have to be ashamed of your body. Like, so that's my image of J.Lo. And in this article, they brought up like she dropped an All Lives Matter in 2016. And like, how can you say All Lives Matter and then you call yourself like La Negrita from the Bronx? Like you can't do those two things like that. Those are incompatible. Exactly. Yes, X on that. But again, my buddy Selena, she was like, check out this podcast, which I haven't yet, but she's like, check out this podcast where they talk about Puerto Ricans in New York identify as Black. So I haven't gotten into that. But if I were to see J.Lo, if she's not wearing her big hoops, you would just think she's a tan white girl. Right? I learned to change my accent. Like if I live in one place long enough, I start to take that accent. I visited Jamaica for like a week and a half and I started picking up the accent. Like I just adapt to it. I don't know if y'all have listened to Vocal Fries. There are another podcast out there, but they talk about linguistic discrimination. That was another topic I want to talk about. But the white passing thing, like you said, in the other podcast that you recorded, is also about how you speak, right? Like what kind of words you're using, what you do, because the way I sound speaking English with y'all right now is very different from the way I speak English with my parents, if they're speaking English with me, or with my sibling. Like it's very different. And actually there is an old recording that I haven't found yet, but I've been meaning to find, where I was in Colombia. I'd already learned like the American English. And when we went back to Colombia, I had to record something for a class. I was reading Edgar Allan Poe. My English was Spanish accented. But if you go to the video recordings of me in like, I don't know, the play or whatever from school, just 6 months before that, I was speaking American English. And so like white passing has so many different components: what you wear, what you look like, what company you're in, what you're doing, what you're saying. But yeah, if I see like the race box, I am Latinx or Hispanic, and I am other. I am mixed, because like the Sevilla, she will go there, but she's got like the flared nostrils, the like kinky hair, like all her daughters, and just like, Grandma, no. And so I know like I'm not going to claim I'm white because I'm not. Like that's not it. And I did take a DNA test, and turns out I'm 100% not white. There is DNA that I share, like a good portion that's indigenous. And I don't know that group, right? I'm not going to claim that group, right? I wouldn't feel comfortable like J.Lo would to say like, oh yes, I'm indigenous. I can't, that's not my reality. That's not my culture. That's not how I grew up.
So no Elizabeth Warren for you? No.
No. Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Oh,
No, Rachel
I had to.
Dolezal.
I'm sorry. I had to. I had to. I
jeez.
had to do it. I had to do it. I'm sorry.
You know, at that time when Elizabeth Warren came out with, when she came out that she was going to go for the president, for the presidential elections, was right at the time when I was doing my work, that the work that I teach about, like learning about others. I was learning about First Nations people, and I started digging in about Elizabeth Warren, and I was like, I was so shocked that, like Cherokee people, like so different people from different tribes, different nations were reaching out to her like, hey, we want to help you reconnect. We want to help you say the right things when you're talking in public. Nada. So disappointed.
Such a shame.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me she had an opportunity to really expand on that and the nations reached out to her and she let it go? If I wasn't wearing this great Wrestlers Nations hat, I would smack the hell out of my forehead right now. That is ridiculous. And I'm sorry. Please don't Seth me right now. I'm sorry. But that just had to be said.
Pocket Seth.
Like it's sad.
Yeah, hearing you, Lynette, like the thing I think about is like I think about my childhood and how my parents put me through speech therapy because I had a hard time saying my S's, my F's, and TH sounds. And, and honestly, if I was in a Latinx culture, like I wouldn't have this problem with like I I wouldn't be categorized of having a speech impediment. It's only because like it I had a hard time speaking English.
And English is hard.
Yeah, it is the hardest language to learn, and yet somehow it is becoming the standard.
That's the first language I was taught, and I still obviously have trouble with it.
You blew my mind right now by saying this. And please let me explain. I've worked in education for over 15 years. And I've worked in special ed for majority of those years, for about 11, 12 years. And I have to say, I've worked very closely with a lot of kids who are English learners. And some kids that just have that trouble with the R's, S's, and TH's. I never once thought about that being linked to them speaking another language as to why they're struggling with that. Like nobody ever talks about that. They just think solely about English. They don't think about the fact of this child is trying to decipher between speaking Spanish to English, and they're just their mouth and their brain is just trying to figure out how to switch between the two. So if we allow them that time, they can get it, or they just don't get it, and that's okay because they are bilingual people, as opposed to forcing them to speak perfect English. You literally just blew my mind right now with that. I never thought about that.
But oh, what is perfect English?
I don't know. That's the only language I speak, and I still don't get it. I speak okay Spanish. I understand, but my English is nowhere near what they want it to be.
It's like I grew up in the South, so like how we like how we talk in the South, totally different than any other region. I love now that everyone's picking up y'all. I it's yeah, it. I love this word. It is gender neutral and inclusive. And also and depending on what region, like people have a judgment about y'all because they think it comes from a lower class.
They had to get audible snaps for that one.
That's crazy. That's crazy because it's like in the South, they're some of the most proper and respectable people. So they're not lower class. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. I forgot the air quotes, but you guys get what I'm saying though, in that respect. So y'all is all that's a part of their vernacular, Like my dance teacher from high school, she was from Atlanta, Georgia. So y'all is what we heard all the time. Y'all so crazy. Y'all better get on to this, and y'all better. I'm like, Man, I love you, McCullough. I love your y'all.
I love y'all.
Shout out to Donna McCullough, by the way, or Cardoza, I should say, because she's been married since high school. So yes, shouts out to my dance teacher. Love you.
Hey, shouts out.
You dance too? Why isn't this a have a drink and a dance show?
You know, we dance so much in all of our other shows and things we do. This was the one mode where we get to have we share this this thing whenever we are out dancing on tour or what have you, where we shared a room one time. It's called it was room number 212, and we would we would see all the things that happened throughout the day, throughout the trip, or what have you, and then we would come back to the room and be like, "Hey, okay, so did you see what had happened?" And like, "Yes, oh my god, I thought I was the only one watching." And so we would, you know, start there and then expand on it, get deeper, and that was just kind of like every trip. After that, every time we hung out, it just got deeper and deeper, where we got to share these views. And so, like, I mean, that and I'm not in the best of shape at the moment to be doing dancing for a pandemic show.
I am the heaviest I've ever been in my life right now. And that's
Oh.
saying a
Ditto.
lot. So
Put on the 2020.
Yep. The 2020.
I think we need to add all those 20s together, and you got about what I've been adding on. Okay. I am huge right now. But I mean, it's funny because we dance. We've danced, like I said, all over the country. We have traveled and we have spent so much time together. So between dance shows, between flights and everything else, we've had these great conversations. So that's why we always like to have a drink, regardless of where we're at. If it's a celebratory drink or if it's just let's just chill and get our mind off of things before we hit the stage type thing. So that's kind of how this is. But yeah, maybe one day we will do a little dance thing. But literally, we've danced for like 8 years together.
That's amazing.
We know each other's moves.
I will totally sing private dancer for y'all.
There you go.
Seth, the
I'm
private
down,
dancer.
Tina Turner coming out. All right.
Yeah.
I'm your private dancer.
I'm your private dancer, dancing for money.
Do what you want me to do.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it's a Pocket O Seth duo that you never knew you needed, but now you do.
That was, you know, and this year, coming this Christmas, we have the Pocket O and Seth duo. Together, they duet your problems.
It's our Christmas album.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Oh my gosh, you're so good. Okay,
we
we
don't
need
sing
you
White
for
Christmas.
ad copy. No.
No.
We don't sing no damn White Christmas.
Yeah. Hashtag nope.
Nope. I know we got into dance and I took us there, but I wanted to go back to what Seth was saying about words and how people think about you, how people perceive you depending on how you pronounce things and what words you use, and the whole white passing thing. And like, my mom was literally talked down to like she had like some sort of mental disability, like she was just not intelligent. And I saw that, like I saw it in the supermarkets, like I was there. And this same sort of like, well, you don't know how to speak it properly, or you don't know how to do this properly, is magnified in Spanish. Like, I didn't even realize how much I was buying into it when I was like, no, Spanish is Spanish, English is English. There's no Spanglish. This is wrong, right? That's buying into this colonialist bullshit that is like, this is the one language. This is how you say it. This is how you do it. It's so artificial. It's so useless of a construct. I mean, I'm buying into it, right? I'm telling you it's useless, but I'm using those words, right? I'm not just, Latinxing my way all over the place, but it's not how language evolved. Like, the reason why we have all these different languages is because people took it and made it their own and messed with it and tried new things and made new words because they were trying to express things that didn't exist. That's how all these languages were created. And so for me, recognizing the privilege that I have as being white passing, as being cis and able-bodied, and being able to speak Spanish properly, I come into, right? Like, this is when I can intervene. Even if it's not my fight on Twitter, I come into and say, like, hey, like, she can speak Spanish however, which way she wants. Like, if she wants to mix and do Spanglish, that's fine. Like, that's normal. That's like part of the evolution of languages. And yeah, no, it's really strong and real and like active way that people in Latinx countries and in Spain discriminate against the other. You've probably like heard about gypsies, right? And like the genocide of the gypsy people in Spain. Like that was one of the tools that they used, right? This is one of the tools that are used to other. I've recently I hadn't really thought about it until I think last year, about how we sort of reinforce colonialist and racist principles in our workplaces by asking people to adopt a certain way of writing or speaking, right? Like if you can't say bro or whatever, bro, like however way, like you normally talk to Z in a professional meeting, then we got to think about like, are we really bringing real people to the table? Are we really bringing their full identity so we can have their full creativity, their full, power of being themselves to the table? And I don't know how to split all of that.
Insert code switching. That's where we're at. That's the code switching part, And I mean, going back to an episode that we had previously talking about that code switch is so important, where we don't talk Black anymore. And then even when I say that, I mean, what is talking Black? Even when I say that, it is crazy because every time I talk about code switching, the one and only movie I refer to is Sorry to Bother You. Like the way that they depicted that in that film was absolutely phenomenal. And the fact that it took place in the Bay Area made it even better because that is the Black experience in the Bay Area. Yeah, that's some great points you're bringing up here.
I was thinking too, because of how, people are like, yeah, that's not there's no strict rigid rules on how you should actually speak the language you speak to other people, because I mean we are all so defined by not just by our experiences in life, but by what we grow up around. I I grew up in Fresno plus all over California. So Fresno was the focal point. So I'd move out, move back, move out, move back, move out, move back. So I always say Fresno's like the Midwest of California. But my mom, and I say that because like my mom and her family and what have you, their way of speech, not only in English, but in Arabic and in Chinese was countrified, if that makes any sense, so to say something in Arabic, I said it to someone else in the real world and they were like, wait, what did you say? And I'm like, oh crap, I have that panic moment of like, did I say it correctly? Oh no, what happened? What did I not say right? And then they go, wait, no, say that again. And I said it and they were like, that sounds like, I don't know, it's as if you're speaking it with an accent. And I'm like, what? They're like, it's like a country-ish. It's like the only, like almost a country way of saying it. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And I had to rethink all of the language that I learned directly from my family because of their influence on it, you know. So yeah, it's important. I'm kind of curious because yeah, we're talking about code switching. We're touching on colorism. It's all. I mean, all of these things house these unconscious biases. I'm curious, like what. I know, Seth, you've mentioned racism in your family. Linet, you've had your experiences. Of discrimination. Like what other levels of colorism or unconscious biases have you interacted with within your own community?
Yeah, I think about like earlier because like I was saying like I am cis male passing. Like I'm queer. I identify as queer, and it is interesting also to hear the biases in the queer community. I hear a lot of transphobia going on with that. Also, for lack of a like, I don't know if there's a better word for it, like toxic masculinity in the butch lesbian community. There's like, if you're, and I would have some friends who, are lesbian, and I would go drinking with them, and like there is an air of like machismoism that I was really shocked to experience. All of a sudden I was talking about like repairing a motorcycle, and then it felt like all of a sudden the person I was talking to, she was getting combative with me or competitive with me, because like, I don't know why. Maybe, maybe just trying to prove that like she can do the same thing. I'm like, great. I want to learn more from you. And why is this a competition? I don't want to win. There is no need for me to win. I just want a shared experience and a couple shots with you.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow. Go.
This is way out of my wheelhouse, and this is the part that I really wanted to learn from. So I'm just telling you right now. So please forgive my ignorance,
Oh,
but I really want to learn. And Z knows my heart more than anything, so he knows I'm gonna ask questions. So please understand me and forgive me if I say anything that may come off insensitive or biased. But I'm trying not to be. Um, but why is it that? Because I'm actually going back to your point, Seth, about the butch. Uh, say it again. I don't want to say it wrong. The
I call it like, yeah, the butch lesbian
butch lesbian. Okay.
culture. Yeah.
Do you,
And I could be completely inaccurate and because like for me, like that's in the community, it's okay to say it. As like someone like me, like, is that okay for me to say? Like, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. You don't know what you don't know, and I think curiosity, coming from a place of curiosity, is totally okay if the intention is curiosity. You know, um, I don't necessarily find it as insensitivity, as long as you're trying, like the intention is to learn and not marginalize.
Yeah. Okay. Because I've just always wondered, but just never really taken the time to ask somebody because I never felt comfortable with anybody that is from that side of the community to ask.
Mhm.
But what my question is just, is that a common thing that they are very overly masculine? Because I see that quite often where it's like there's this really strong masculine energy trying to come out to prove that they are a male. And it's like, that's unnecessary. Just be you. You don't need to prove to me that you're a male. Just prove to me that you're you. That's all that I care about. I feel like sometimes I, when I have been in the same vicinity, I feel like there's so much of I gotta act harder than the hardest dude here. And I'm like, that's unnecessary. It's like you're actually bringing more attention to yourself in that respect of you're trying too hard as opposed to just being who you are. And that's just me. And that's why I said, excuse my ignorance. It's just that's just the energy that I feel in that space.
Sorry, I just want to say I feel like that's just the definition and the air of toxic masculinity in general. Like that's what comes with it. That idea of trying too much, trying too hard.
I feel like what this is because of the patriarchy and toxic masculinity that uh, I feel like people feel like they need to um, I they need to overcompensate because of who they are and how they want to live their lives. It just feels like sometimes you feel like you just have to uh, you have to be aggressive about it. You have to feel like you really have to prove yourself that, you know, you prove your self-worth because of these systems that have been created by the patriarchy. You know, I do, you know, for me, I do not believe in this male dominant world, but like it is the world that we were born into.
Yeah. And I mean, like, if you never would have said it, I never would have known it. And it's not my business and I don't care. And that's just how I take things. You know, it's like what you do in your home or in your room is your business. And that's how I feel. But it's like just a lot of times it's like you have some that are just so over the top with certain things where it's like they're trying to overly prove something. I'm like, don't prove anything to me. That's you. Be you, do you. You know, like if you are queer, if you are gay, if you're a lesbian, if you're whatever, be that and be proud of it. I'm good with it. I don't care. That's your life. What you eat don't make me shit. So what are you tripping off of? Because I'm not. But I just feel like sometimes I'm like, why are you trying so hard? I'm like, don't bow up to me and want to fight me and be like, yo, dude, like I'm gonna knock you out. I'm like, no, homie, you are not. Calm down. Like, let's just talk. Let's chill. You don't have to prove that you're more of a man than me. Just like I'm not gonna do the same to you, you know? Or if I see some women and then some gay men, I'm like, he doesn't need to prove that he's more of a woman than you are. Like, I don't know why there's always this competition. I guess it's a human thing of us always trying to compete with each other to prove somebody is to be as worthy of acceptance or to be who they are. I'm like, just be you and just be you in the most beautiful way that you can. But you don't have to prove anything to anybody because you're beautiful just the way you are and for who you are.
I know this is nothing to do with feeding to this conversation, but can I just unpack for a moment?
Wait, what?
What you eat don't make me shit. I've never heard that saying before.
I love that.
You know, I thought I heard that, but I was like, no, maybe I didn't hear that. Maybe I'm just like too buzzed and I like totally. That is so good.
Right.
Can we have to make this a t-shirt. Do you do t-shirts for your
God,
shows?
Yes, actually,
That's not my quote. That's not my quote. I can't take that. I can't take that.
Whose is that? That's amazing.
I've heard that many a time from many different people, but I mean, like I
All
heard
right, cool.
Jay-Z say it many years
Yeah.
ago.
Uh,
What you eat
Okay.
don't make me shit. And I'm just like, that's the truth.
I have to say two things. One is it's always okay to ask as long as you're asking from the I perspective. This is one of the things we teach in our workshop. As long as you're not like, oh, you know, so-and-so did this, so-and-so is that, you know, this group is this group is that. As long as you're like, this is my perspective, this is what I'm getting from this, that's fine. Two is you never know what somebody else is carrying, right? So like someone else might be carrying like they're lesbian, but they're butch lesbian. And they feel like, you know, they're often questioned, like, why don't you just wear dresses? You're so pretty. Or, you know, you have such a nice bone structure. You should, you know, you should this, you should that. Like even cis women like myself, like I really struggled with my body image. I really struggled for many reasons. But like I didn't realize it was okay to wear, like I was totally a goth chick before I knew that that was a thing. And I wear baggy clothing and whatever, but I didn't realize like, oh, I could wear skirts. And that didn't mean I was less than, or that I wasn't smart, or that I, you know, like that I wasn't all the other things that I am. And so for a long time, I purposely went against everything that I thought was feminine. So I always wore jeans. I never wore skirts. I always wore dark colors. I never wore bright colors. Like I graduated to red in high school. I was so proud of myself. You know, like, like I, like only up until the last 5 years have I worn pink. Like I swore off anything that was like slightly pastel colored. Like, you know, but that was my thing. And so I would never talk about makeup. I would never talk about things that I considered to be feminine or like women, because I wanted to prove that I was one of the guys, because I hung out with the guys. And so I know all the dirty jokes. I know all, like that's my thing. And you could be like, okay, why is Linet trying to like out pervert me right now? But it has nothing to do with you. It's all to do with like my hangups and my wanting to prove that I didn't have to be a sexual object. I could just hang, right? You didn't have to like consider me as a potential love interest. You didn't have to look at my butt. You could just like hang with me. We could talk about, I don't know, anime or, music or whatever. I didn't want to talk about, girly stuff.
What? You're a person. That's
Who doesn't talk about girly stuff? What?
What? You don't have gender specific conversations?
I know. Don't all just Latinx people just talk about like hot salsa and like dancing salsa and everything salsa.
That's funny.
I like menudo. Menudo is good.
The group or the food?
I've realized as we're coming through this podcast that I am in like music royalty area. So I seriously apologize. My amateur musician is like extremely humbled.
No, we are at least I'm not nowhere near royalty. I'm definitely a court jester.
Excuse me, Choo Choo Soul? I don't know.
Is there a train coming? Is it a steam train?
No, it's a bullet train, brother. You just barely missed it.
Oh man. But I thank you guys. This has been really, really an amazing, eye-opening, heart-opening conversation. And I mean, I'm not trying to close out. I'm just saying, like, this is just how I am. He already knows how I am. But this is just a beautiful moment. Like, I feel like I've learned so much in this conversation, from being able to notice and work and bring to light our unconscious biases, as well as learning about the LGBTQ plus community. I hope I didn't miss any letters or anything.
You can say queer also.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah, queer community.
Yeah, because
I never knew that, and I always get so nervous about saying the freaking letters because I'm like, I feel like I'm missing a letter, or I'm missing a plus, a minus, a check, or something, because it keeps evolving like every 6 to 8 months, and I'm like, I'm working in education, and we had to do this whole sensitivity and understanding thing, so I'm like, all right, I gotta pay attention, I gotta make sure, and I'm saying all the right stuff, and I don't want to make any kids feel not included. So thank you for telling me that, because that makes life a lot easier.
Yeah, queer is definitely like the general umbrella, because like, going back to, we don't know what we don't know. Like, I'm still learning more about myself, and like, what is gender and how do I identify, and what gender do I really resonate with?
That's a whole other podcast episode.
Yeah, that's we do not have 2 more hours.
We're going to put that in the pocket with you, Seth. We're going to put that in the pocket. And next time you come on the show, we're going to pull that one out of the pocket. We are going to explore that one.
Pockets.
No, that's a great thing to explore with Pocket Seth. I mean, gender is like literally, I went to this workshop once. I know I do workshops, but I like workshops. But there was I went to a gender workshop because I was like, I want to understand a little more, because one of my, broader family members is trans, and they came out to me. They haven't like in person, done any outward stuff, but they've talked about it. And so I was like, oh gosh, I really want to learn. I really want to know more. And one of the questions in the workshop was, when was the first time you remember somebody gendering you? That was one question. And then another question was like, when was the first time you felt like a certain gender, any gender, right? Like that you questioned yourself. And it's like, wow, like I have a kid and I'm trying to, teach my kid. I'm trying not to him my kid, right? Like it's so easy in Spanish, right? Because everything's gendered. Gosh, Spanish is so terrible for this. But I'm trying to teach them like there's people that are she and him, and you can be, whatever you want. Like you want to be a mom. The other day he came up to me and he was like, I'm going to have a vagina when I grow up and I'm going to have a period in Spanish. And I was like, okay, baby, that sounds great. It's just like,
I'm positive
like,
you have one of those things.
I'm like, that's great. That's awesome. And after, 3 months of being with my parents, they're like, no, I am el señor. Like I am the man that dances. He was being a ballerina, but he's like, I am the man that dances. And I was like, okay, that's fine, right? I don't want to like say, no, you can't be a man, right?
Right.
But like exploring gender, exploring like where it comes from, how do you interact with it? I mean, I want to just be a fly on the wall in that podcast. So like, please, please have me back, or at least like ding me as soon as that podcast comes out, because I definitely want to be there.
Oh no, we definitely got to have you and Pocket Set together. Most definitely.
Well, I think that's also a Pocket Linet.
Oh,
Pocket Linet.
Pocket Linet. Ooh.
Get Linet.
If you act now, you can also get a Pocket Seth and a Pocket Linet.
Oh my gosh. Move over, Polly Pocket. You have been moved out.
Normally $152. Now only 2 to 3 easy payments of $39.99.
Call now and we'll throw in Pocket Z and Pocket O.
They dance, they sing, and they'll talk to you about something deep. How are you feeling? When's the last time you told yourself you love yourself?
And
okay, I need that.
We don't go in the back. We don't go in the back pocket. We don't do that.
Oh.
Speak for yourself.
Only.
I mean, I'll go in the back seat, but
Hey.
I didn't even think about that. This has gone way further than where my mind went. This is so awesome.
I love it.
I want to thank all of you. This has been like a friend of mine came by to socially distance. He like converted his van, a van into an RV, and like socially distance hung out with us, which was awesome. But like this is the first time, like I think since I left Oakland with my pod, that I've had like I feel like I'm hanging out, and it's like really nice. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. We love great company, and like I said, I already know Seth is amazing company, and anyone that he associates himself with has to be of the same caliber. So thank you for joining. We really appreciate it. Actually, any lasting like questions, points, or anything you want to leave off on, or do you want to leave off on a Discord question?
Great. So first of all, I literally just checked to see if I was muted. I thought I was talking to myself. I do want to add one more thing though. Today, if I remember correctly, I did add a question to our Discord, and actually I would like to pose it to our guests before we close out. And my question was, how will you change the world for the better today? Even though UBP is pretty much its own answer, but every day I think is important to kind of wake up with this kind of feeling and this thought of how can I change the world for the better today? Now, to give you guys some time to think about that answer, I'll go ahead and go. And I'm Omega. I'm usually supposed to go last, but I'm going to start first. And I will say, today I woke up, I got a workout in, and I worked out with my brother. And we had great conversation, and we had a great brotherly moment, as every workout is. And I feel like I'm able to be the big brother that my little brother needs. And that in itself is helping me change the world and being a positive male role model for him. And then to keep that ball rolling, I bring that same positive energy to my students. and I show them what a good Black male role model and leader and teacher can do for you. That we're not all the bad men that they show us to be on TV, and we're not all just target practice, but we are game changers, and we are there to change the world with every breath and moment that we take. And then I continue to roll that on to help shape and mold the lives of those that have come before me that are my elders, and training my clients who are older than me. Not saying that they're dirt, but they're definitely older than me. And I change their life by taking them through a workout to live a healthier lifestyle, and to have great conversation and learn. I appreciate it. And coming here and not just talking about it, but being about it and having an open mind and heart and willing to learn about how to change the biases that I have been raised to believe and know, but also to meet some great, beautiful people that are already game changers, that have already changed my life for the better through one conversation to the next.
Beautiful answer, oh. Beautiful answer.
Is anyone supposed to follow up after that? Because
So I was gonna
shit.
say, so all right. O's making me tell this story. So every time O decides to go first, you have to think about that carefully, because Omega is supposed to be at the end all be all, right? You go out, you expect, hey, we're all gonna do 70, right? Omega comes out and does 170 because his base is 100, so just 70 more than that is like, all right, cool, we'll go 70. so so yeah, hard act to follow, but I mean, I'll keep mine short and sweet, as we are a great contrast to that. But for me, it's to have conversations and to keep myself a safe place for people to open up about all the hard things that are going on in their life, in their world, what have you, no matter where I'm at, no matter what I'm doing. I mean, I already wear an invisible sign to myself that says, come and talk to me. It's okay. You know, that people feel comfortable enough to come up and be like, hey, I can't do this right now. I need some help. And, so that's one way I continue to and want to continue to better the world.
Kind of bouncing off both you, O, and Z. What I hear you saying, O, is like, yeah, what I do is try to model different behavior. How do I talk to people? How do I interact with them? I recognize in myself, like, um, somehow I am the kind of person that, like you were saying, Z, like, I have this invisible sign that's like, "Hey, no, you can totally come talk to me. I will listen. I will sit there and I will have empathy for where you're coming from and reflect back to you that I hear you." You know, yeah, and like, you know, other things that I do is like, especially now and where we're at w- with racism, with biases, and how, like, there's certain members of my family that are uh, voting for a person that I uh, do not agree with, and like, I still engage with them. I still have conversations and come with curiosity about, okay, why do you believe this? Why do you want to go this route? Um, and try to understand where they are and see if they're open to understanding where my position is. I don't. You can't force someone to understand your perspective if they really are adamant. But maybe if you come at them with curiosity about theirs, they will take a moment to listen to what you have to say.
Wow, Seth. Okay, how am I supposed to follow all that? All right, I had lots of different thoughts reflecting on everybody here. I just have to say, each one of y'all's lists were like so huge. I'm like, any one of those could take a lifetime to commit to. And I'm so in awe of each one of you putting this out there, you know, bearing your hearts in how you are trying to change the world. Cause that is so important and powerful that we think about that, you know. Okay, I've had enough to drink that I'm getting misty-eyed, but that's what I'm really hoping for, right? Like people are digging in and saying like, you know, my time is limited on this earth and I am here. What can I do? I'll share with you that, you know, just 2 months ago, I was considering shutting down UBP because I was doing 90% of it for free. Right now I'm doing it all for free, but I'm doing most of it for free. And I couldn't sustain my family on it because my for-profit job was ending thanks to pandemic. Yay, pandemic. And I looked at myself and I was like, well, what can I do, right? And I tried to apply for jobs. And I realized I'm really happy doing what I'm doing, right? If I can make this work, if I can make this also sustain me, it would literally be my dream job. And that is an opportunity most people don't have. So I need to try, like, what better time is there than now to try to make that my dream job? And Z, you said UBP would be an answer, but one of our values in UBP is to be humble. And we can always be better, right? We have lots of genders, lots of socioeconomic backgrounds. We have several ethnicities and cultures, different languages represented, different styles of hair even. And we could be more diverse, right? We could do more. And I think that's where I am in like, yeah, we are Unconscious Bias Project. And we still have our biases. We can still do more. We can still invite more. I realized when I took the turn from, I'm not just going to be volunteering from UBP, I'm going to transform. I'm going to do everything I can to make UBP the professional, structured place where anybody, if you're able, if you have a disability, First Nations, you know, you don't have a lot of income, you have a lot of income, no matter who you are, you can come and work with us and then we can pay you not just a living wage, but what you are worth, right? Because what we want is like that background, your knowledge, your expertise. We want to be able to pay you what you're worth. In order to do that, I need to bring it to the next level, right? And I need to embody everything that we teach. I need to do everything that we teach. And that's like a big project, right? That's my long-term, what are you going to do to change the world? What am I going to do to change the world tomorrow is I'm going to remember to tell each and every person that I see tomorrow how much I appreciate them for whatever it is that is the thing. I realized this the other day, like I was not appreciating my partner for the freaking Greek god that he is. Like I think he's a gorgeous man, right? I think he's just freaking amazing. And I decided to start that today. And I was like, you're looking good. Like your beard looks really great. I love it. He's like, wow, you're really showering the compliments today. And I was like, I know. I realized I've been so buried in like pandemic, election, my work, like our kid, the chores, you know, like whatever you like wrap yourself into, that I'm not maybe actively expressing like the things that I appreciate. Like I appreciate having some eye candy when I look over at my desk. Like that's nice to me. I love that. I like that. So my commitment is tomorrow, which is really today, because it's almost 1 a.m. here, is I'm going to share my appreciation for the people I see today.
That was absolutely beautiful and perfect. And
Fantastic.
not to make this go any longer, but I do want to say you actually said something that was very, very important. Men love to hear compliments and love to hear positive words of affirmation too. And we totally, totally need it and appreciate it, and it's important. So I know we always hear you need to tell your woman that she's beautiful. You need to tell your woman that she's important. You need to tell your woman how much you need her. Well, we also got to remember, women, you can do the same for your man too, because they also need to hear it. Or any significant other, whether they're male, female, anything. Tell your significant other, or just tell anybody that they are necessary, they're needed, and they are loved. And that will go far.
Hell yeah. Oh.
Absolutely. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Beautiful answers from all of y'all.
I do want to give a shout out to all of our patrons out there. Thank you guys for all the love and support that you guys do for us. It is not going unnoticed, and it is surely appreciated. Our Discord has been straight fire this week. We have had some great conversations, but you know what we need? We need more people to dive right in and more about it. When you hear the term unconscious bias, what does that make you think of? And are there any unconscious, or are there any biases that come to your consciousness when you hear it?
Oh, brother.
Yeah.
Double drop. Come on. Come on. Kapow. But yeah, absolutely. You know, if you want to also continue in this conversation outside of here, feel free to hit us up on Twitter or Instagram as well at Have a Drink Cast, and make sure to use the hashtag HADcast, especially if you have like questions or you have like something you want to share personally from what you've heard, or you're like, hey, you guys should definitely talk about this next episode. You know, drop it on Twitter, use the hashtag HADcast. We'd love to hear it, love to see it. Yeah, to our Patreons as well. We actually, like I said last episode, we have a lot of stuff coming for merch, the Patreon exclusive merch. But we, as you've seen, we've been drinking all episode out of these Have a Drink cups. They are blue Have a Drink color changing cups. We have our names on the back. I know, specially made, specially ordered. We, depending on, you know, talks with the distributor, maybe we'll figure out some price ranges and things that we could do to make this beneficial for everyone. But yeah, I mean, hey, you hear him filling up his drink right now.
Well, sir, I sure did forget that wasn't on mute. I apologize.
I want one.
Oh, I have a great idea. I own a laser engraver, and
Yes.
these are 16 ounce
Get it closer. Get it closer to the camera.
This is 16 ounce glasses. I don't have anything laser engraved on it.
Oh.
But definitely, like if you want to have it, I know I want to. Yeah, all the ones that I do have engraved are at a different house right now. I have all my equipment separated in like 3 different houses when I lost my shop. So, but yeah, I think that I like that idea.
Well,
Yeah.
we're gonna suck.
Yeah.
Hey, that guy right there, Pocket Seth, is clutch.
Pocket
Yeah.
Seth.
Pocket Seth.
Can do.
I have to say, this has been one of the fun episodes that we've gotten to do. You know, I really appreciate you all taking the time to come share your thoughts, your hearts, your minds with us, share with those of you all listening at home. You know, you give so much of yourself to a certain idea, a certain focus, a certain drive that like sometimes it goes underappreciated, but then like to be able to sit back and hear that or sorry, sometimes you also not only feel underappreciated, but you feel alone, and to sit back and hear that, you know, be reflected and echoed amongst, you know, kin, yeah, you know, community, you know, people from different communities, different walks of life. You know, it leaves that room for hope, it leaves that room for love, it leaves that room for growth, and it's just amazing, and y'all are amazing.
And just to piggyback off of that, how can we be a part of UBP? How can we support you? Because that's one big thing about us is we want to be able to support those that support us. And by you coming here shows your love and support. So how can we support you guys?
And not only that, but how can our listeners at home support you guys as well? So drop it, do your shameless plugs, drop your links, drop your everything.
I'll start by one. We would love to have a drink as guests on our podcast. It would be so humbling and beautiful if you don't have to make a decision now, but we'd love
Done.
to have you. Okay. Yes!
Sold.
Pocket Seth, you did your job just again.
Excellent.
Yeah, I thank you. That makes me truly happy. Y'all are so much fun. I had so much fun. Okay, so shameless plug. Yes, be at our podcast. That would be amazing. I know our website is under construction right now, but unconsciousbiasproject.org, you can find our COVID emergency fundraiser there. We're actively seeking funds to help us keep the lights on, help us pay for our Google Drive, our Dropbox, our ability to host the podcast. Heck, if you do an even bigger donation, we can actually afford to start paying some amazing volunteers for their work. Pocket Seth. And you can share the word. We're actively looking right now for clients. We are getting booked up for the fall. We were really excited about that, but we're always looking for folks. If you want a one-on-one consultation, you have a question like, do I say LGBTQIA plus, or can I say queer? Any of those questions are fair game. Just shoot us an email. There's a link in our website. If not, you can directly email me, Linet, that's linet.mera@gmail.com, or our unconscious bias email, unconsciousbias.STEM, that's STEM@gmail.com. We're looking for folks for a podcast. We're looking for folks to work with us, bring us to your workplace, to your classroom. We do workshops. We do climate surveys. I cannot stress enough how important a climate survey can be in an organization, no matter what size. We just did one for a group that was literally under 45 people, and they learned so much. Like we had somebody say like, wow, you guys, and they said, guys, you guys really know what you're doing. Like you really know what you're doing here. They had no idea, right? That they're, maybe I can't say that much, but that this specific group was really having a hard time, even though this particular organization is known to be equitable and inclusive and the most diverse in their whole field in the Bay Area. So like, wow, they didn't realize that, right? Like this is how powerful a third party climate survey can be. So we do climate surveys, we do workshops, we do talks, seminars, one-on-one consulting, we do custom things. You want to dig into things with your leadership. You want to start, doing the hard work of developing a diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy. We're here for you. Like our goal, we are nonprofit because we're not here for the money. We're here to help you reach your goals. We're here for you. We want to solve unconscious bias. We want to solve bias. We want to solve these problems, and they are unsolvable. But our best case scenario is that we are out of a job because everybody's figured it out. Like that's the worst plug I could ever give, but that's what we want, right? We want you to reach out to us. We want you to talk to us. Follow us. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter. Talk to us. Send us an email. Don't be shy. We're here for you. We started a hashtag on Twitter and Instagram called Together Against Bias. And it's true. We are really here with you. We're together with you. I think one of y'all said it, that you're not alone. Like you're literally not alone. This is the hardest time to be alone, and you are not alone. Like Unconscious Bias is here with you. Unconscious Bias Project is here with you.
Pocket Seth.
And Pocket Seth makes amazing shit.
Yeah. No, well, now I will join the Discord, and if you have any questions to ask me, or you know, please do. I do some side hustle of custom design and laser engraving at osodesigns.shop. Come check that out. And yeah, I love the work that we're doing. And want to, I'm unemployed, so it's great. I can volunteer my time and just put a lot more energy into this project.
I
So
love it.
sweet. Fantastic.
Hashtag hire Pocket Seth. No, I'm serious. Pocket Seth is like the Swiss Army knife. He's the Costa Rican Army knife that you never knew you needed.
There you go.
Like music, sound engineering, editing, writing, project management, 3D printing, like programming, Discord. Like, I feel like every time I talk to Seth, I learn about one new thing that Seth knows about. And I'm like, I didn't know you were an expert in that. You see the instruments in the back? He could play those.
Pockets.
Call 1-800 Pocket Seth for your own Pocket Seth now.
My cheeks are hurting. I'm laughing and smiling so much right now.
Oh,
the
I love
best.
it. I
That's the
love you
best.
guys. You guys are awesome.
All right.
You all
It is
awesome.
now time for us to raise our glasses.
Is it about that time?
That time, my brother.
Wonderful. I want to thank my guests again for joining us. You all have been amazing. Your insights have been wonderful and powerful. I thank you all for listening at home, and I thank you guys again for joining us for another successful episode of the Have a Drink podcast, where we invite you to sit, think, and have a drink. That's been us. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.